starting us off?
Pretty good.
There you go.
Oh, sure. Thank you very much. Here you go.
It's the revision, the one I just handed.
Hey, Mike, can you pass that around?
That's good.
Yes.
Thanks.
What is this? Yes.
Take one and pass it.
No, I'm glad I
Oh,
took
pass
this
it,
route
sorry.
when I was in high school.
Two sets?
Glad I took this draft when I was in high school. I can read
Oh,
a map.
I see.
Or not a map,
There you go.
plan.
One for. There's that.
Thank you.
Did they get them down there? Oh, there's two different ones. I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ready when
Ready?
you are.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for a community development meeting, Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. We've got all four committee members here, and Charlie Gorman is also present.
Chairman, if I can just jump in real quick. Originally in the meeting, we were going to talk about the impact fees and the feasibility studies. I just wanted to let everyone know right off the bat, the reason why those were removed, or I removed them from the agenda is because originally I was supposed to be on my way to Springfield. So I wanted to make sure I was here for that meeting, for that discussion, and that's why they were removed today. But due to other circumstances, I'm here. It's a little late to add them back in.
No,
So I
that's
just
fine.
wanted to make that clear and make it part of the record.
Not a problem. I was going to ask about it later, but thank you for getting to it right off the bat. We'll open it up to public comments. If there's anybody that would like to speak on something that is not on the agenda this evening. Okay. Then we'll just move right into the permit fees update that we're going to cover.
Thank you, Chairman Carncross. The fees that are before you, it's a streamlined fee schedule for permitting. The current fee structure has been cumbersome since I've gotten here. I'm starting to get used to it, but on the most basic level, the majority of our fees currently are $27.50. This causes a need for a lot of quarters in our department, and I can't understand or justify why they're $27.50. I've looked back and don't understand the reasoning. So we thought to clean it up, we can either go up or down, 25 or 30. We went up to $30, which is a less than 1% increase. And rather than having fees for new construction as it relates to residential, where currently if you're doing trying to figure out the fees for a new home, you have to count the outlets. It's so many cents per outlet. You have to count the gas openings, the plumbing fixtures and all that. It leaves room for error. You can miss outlets and whatnot, or outlets get added later if they're needed. So we did a comparison of creating just a cost per square foot, which in the new fee schedule would be $1.25. Compared that to what the costs were when you added up all the fees from the current schedule, and it's pretty much the same. So we're not losing any money there. We're not making any more money. It's pretty much the same. Just makes it a lot easier when people call and say, how much is it to build a home? The permit fee, we could say it's $1.25 per square foot, and then we can add on the tap-on fees and things like that outside of that. Those are in the fee schedule that I proposed. Those are all blacked out because they're not being updated or changed or anything. So it just streamlines it for staff internally and then externally for constituents, potential new residential developers, and then for commercial developers as well.
For the new construction square footage, was that compared to other municipalities as far as like what their fee schedule is? And so we kind of know if we're like competing I mean, my only question would be like, are we competing apples to apples with other municipalities, or are we like, my concern would be we don't want to be way over, so that way we can still, be competitive to try to bring in new construction, because we've been trying to do that.
totally understand. Yes, they are competitive. I think we still have some of the lowest fees in the county compared to our other municipal counterparts. So that makes it easy to sell lots and things like that as well.
Okay. Yep, that was just my concern. Just wanted to make sure we stayed kind of in that same mindset that we don't want to all of a sudden hamstring ourselves with something simple that, makes us unappealing to somebody. So-
One of the things that we added was the stormwater management permit fee, a base fee of $150. Any permit that comes through that might be in a flood zone requires our stormwater enforcement officer, Gary, our engineer, to review it, and there'll be fees tacked onto that. In talking with Gary, the majority of permits that would go through that are your decks or fences, sheds, things like that. This will most likely cover the majority of his costs for that review, so. It's just so that there's no surprises for the applicant later on.
I have a question, Donovan. Under the current fee structure, when someone looks to build, are they also, if they do electrical, they also have an electrical fee and then a plumbing fee? I'm just trying to understand, where is it the straight $27.50?
No, for electric, it's $30. For new construction, it's $30 plus 5 cents per opening.
So how is that incorporated into the new fee structure?
It's $1.25 per square foot. So we took I took a couple of different homes, Foxtail Properties, and then most recently Greenway's duplex, and compared them, since those were already figured, without the rebates that we provided, to do a comparison, and they were pretty much exact.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm crystal clear here that under the current fee structure, they would pay based on the $30 plus 5 cents per opening. Then they would also pay plumbing based on what size house it is, and then electrical. And then all of those fees under the new proposal are going to be incorporated into the single square footage fee.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And that does include garage as well, so. And then, if we decide to negotiate with the developer, like we have been, if they determine they can build so many homes for so many years, we can say, okay, $1 per square foot, rather than like our exercise last time, okay, let's take out plumbing, let's take out electrical.
I see.
We can just raise or lower it.
It really does streamline the process, and it ties it all to square footage instead of kind of a la carte.
It makes a lot of sense. I like how clean and neat it is versus what it was. Was there anything particular that was taken out that we no longer are incorporating, or we made sure that it was confirmed that everything that was in our old fee structure translated into the new fee structure, even if it was wrapped into something single like the square footage? I just want to make sure we didn't leave something out that could bite us later.
I don't think there was anything removed. The occupancy permit, in the old fee, that was, where did I see that? The occupancy permit for new construction was $83 per unit. That's just now rolled into the new fees. We do a temporary occupancy fee for $75. So this will come up this winter when Greenway or Lori Weber, who just applied for 2 permits, they're not going to be able to get their sod in by the time, snow falls or what have you. So we'll give them a temporary occupancy for $75 that outlines whatever conditions they need to complete in the springtime. That was added.
got here citing each $30. Is that per side of the dwelling? Just so that's calculated out.
For siding,
Yeah,
that's for the entire dwelling.
okay.
It's
So
currently-
for each dwelling, okay, it says each, so I just want to make sure that, so everything on here is per dwelling, not necessarily per item, like window, just so that way if somebody's looking this up. Okay.
Yeah. That's correct.
All right. When we post this into, like, the website and stuff, so we've got this posted so people can look it up, are we gonna have any documentation, like, noting that, like, each line is per dwelling or something like that, just so that way if they go and look it up themselves, that they'll understand that, like for windows, it doesn't mean per window, it means, like, per property.
Yeah, we could probably include that right here in the document.
Right. They can include it either on the,
Yeah, that's all I'm
Yeah.
saying, is just that before we publish it, once it's approved and go through the process, so we make sure that there's some kind of verbiage in there that explains that, just because if I'm asking, then somebody else is gonna
Oh, yeah.
ask.
one other thing, just again, so we're on the records and it's clear, it's more to help Ann down the road. The roofing permit is per address, correct?
Yeah, that'd be a good idea to include that in there as well.
Okay.
I mean, it is in our codes that way. It's a little tough to get to, but I know we've had issues about that brought up in the past, and so yes.
Becomes an issue when it's a multifamily dwelling,
Yeah,
Right.
and so there's more than one address.
that makes a lot of sense.
So
yeah.
if we can include that as, in the verbiage, that would be great.
Well, I appreciate, because like I said, in my personal job, I look up code and pull municipal code, and it might be redundant to have it in a couple places, but even just an asterisk with a little note saying like this applies to this, or this applies per address, saves people a lot of time, just because they may not call and ask. They may just go straight to our website and look, and then move on and never communicate because it's something that's not in there. So those little notes would be perfect. Otherwise, I don't see any issue that I find opposed to. What do you think, Jay?
I'm good with it. In fact, I make the motion to approve the recommendation.
With the suggested verbiage.
Yeah, for roofing, personal address or per address.
Lori, do you have any comments or discussion? No? Charlie, do you have anything to add?
No.
No? Okay, well, then, all's in favor?
Aye.
Aye? Doesn't look like we have any opposed, so, very good. Good work.
Thank you.
This helps a lot.
Thank you, Donna.
This is good stuff. Since that's complete, we'll go ahead and move on to the proposed agreement for plan review services and permitting code enforcement software with Safe Built.
So Safe Built, as stated in my memo, is a national firm they provide plan reviews, plan inspections, planning services, engineering services, and then they also bought a software company called Community Core that they use for all their inspectors out in the field and things like that. My previous municipality, we were able to negotiate for plan review services and inspection services and negotiated to get the Community Core software for free, so I have some experience with it. Did the same thing here for the city of Harvard. However, they were agreeable to just using plan review services and providing the software for free to the municipality. It's a savings of approximately $35,000. The software will allow your residents and contractors, especially your roofing contractors that are pulling permits often, to apply online, track their permits online, schedule inspections online. We'll be able to schedule our own inspections online instead of on our paper calendars like we are now. And they'll be able to pay online. We'll be able to either use the tablet or our cell phones out in the field. So if Ann's doing code enforcement, she can pull up the address in the system, take a picture of it. It's automatically uploaded in there, so she doesn't have to come back, plug in her phone, or download pictures, to then print out and things like that. So it'll just be a really nice database for us to have and for tracking on our side internally, but then really convenient for contractors and residents to go through the permitting process online. Currently, we do have payments online. It's kind of a disjointed system where Ann will get an email when someone pays, but I don't believe it has the name of the applicant. Does it have the name of the applicant in there?
It doesn't even have an address or any contractor's information on it.
So if a homeowner, contractor applies, what the homeowner pays, it's somewhat
How do you connect the two?
disjointed, yeah. Deb did give me credentials for Invoice Cloud, so I can look it up that way too to see if they paid. But there's been times where you know, what's going on with this permit? And we call them and they say, we paid that a week ago. We just don't get a good notification of it. So this way, if someone applies online, they won't be able to move to the next step until they provide everything, which will be really nice for us as staff. We get everything at once. And then really nice to communicate with our engineer and the plan review company to forward everything to them electronically so they can do their reviews. They have a national team that does plan reviews, so our plan reviews will be streamlined. They say 10 days. Typically, from my experience in working with them, they're a lot less than 10 days. And we expect single-family homes, majority of all of your commercial projects to go through them. It'll free us up to focus on other tasks and keep doing our day-to-day things without getting bogged down.
Just for everyone's knowledge, when they do a plan review, is that a fee that we pay or is that passed on?
That would get passed on to the applicant.
Do we pay that first and then bill the applicant, or does the applicant pay that directly? Like we
They-
do with stormwater now?
Yeah, they'll invoice monthly, and then we will collect payment upon permit issuance. So there could be a lag there.
Thank you.
So if I understand this correctly, the city won't incur any additional costs to do this. We'll gain software that we currently don't have, and we will create a scale of efficiency in your department that we currently don't have.
That's correct.
And add a mentorship?
And say that again?
Will this be adding some additional help as far as reviewing?
So that's with HLR. So we have
Sorry, okay.
three firms that we're working with currently. BNF, that's our current plan review and inspection services for those inspections that Ann and I can't handle. And we just asked for an agreement with them for plumbing inspections. Current plumbing inspector works full-time for Woodstock, so we can only do our plumbing inspections early in the morning or after 4 p.m. It's not conducive, it's not efficient for our plumbing contractors in town. So we're going to contract with BNF. They'll be able to do inspections throughout the day. It's a little bit more cost, but not much more. So that's BNF. And then we're working with HLR, their building official, Dan Stripe, who used to be the building official in Woodstock and then Public Works Director in Marengo. He's now in the private sector with HLR. We want to use him for training purposes only to get Ann trained up out in the field on inspections, and some inspections that I don't know how to do or I'm not comfortable doing. He would come out and spend an hour with us, or we would go to him in Union. He serves a lot of municipalities, and he would walk us, from footing all the way up to a final inspection, as well as commercial. Ann has taken a lot of classes through BNF and is trained up pretty well through the code books, but getting that one-on-one experience with someone who's kind of the Rain Man when it comes to building codes would just really be beneficial to her, so that we can work her up to that full-time building inspector status eventually, if she wants. And then the third one would then be Safe Build, taking on our plan reviews, no inspection services or anything like that, just plan reviews and then the software. There'll be some upfront work on mine and Ann's part because we're not paying for a data drop into the software, so we'd physically be going in and entering addresses as they came up. We'd be able to clean out our file system, scanning documents, adding them to the addresses electronically. So when there's a FOIA and things like that, we can just go right to the system, print out whatever for that address that's needed, and not go through all the files that we have to go through currently, taking out staples and all that good stuff to scan them and send them off, so.
And I just wanted to add BFNA, or BNFA, one of them. That's it. We currently have a contract with them for them to do the plumbing inspection. It would end up being just an addendum to the contract.
So we wouldn't have to sign a new contract, new
Correct.
terms or
Correct.
extensions or anything. Okay.
And then there's still quite a bit of budget funds left in the training line item for this department for HLR as well, for this fiscal. And then, it started this year, correct?
The agreement that was in your packet, Attorney Clifton reviewed it. He wanted to add something to the FOIA requirements, if I remember correctly. So that, we just got that updated agreement today. I believe Administrator Leone printed that out for everybody.
Correct, that's what I passed out at the beginning. Or passed around, sorry.
So this is the contract for the software part of it, yeah.
Through these moves, we're making our building and inspection program a lot stronger and providing additional services we did not have. And all doing that, Deb watches over the pennies pretty hard. So we had to make sure this was free.
And the software also handles contractor licensing and business licensing if in the future the city does business licenses. Currently for contractor licenses, the contractor comes in, fills out the application, provides their insurance and pays. We bring that up to Jeanette. Jeanette enters that into an Excel spreadsheet. She scans it, puts it into a folder, a paper copy and electronic copy, then prints out the certificate or the license for the contractor and mails it off. We stopped doing that as of last week. I said, we don't need to send the contractor a license. They're not going to hang them in their work truck or anything like that. So just email them the license if they want to print it out, great. So to streamline it a little bit and save money on postage. But this system will handle it all now.
Just to circle back, just so I make sure I understand. So this system will also allow for this software does payment processing as well?
It ties into our current system.
Okay, so just so I understand how so it'll tie into the current system. It doesn't necessarily replace that payment processing, but it'll be easier to see what they're paying for, so. Okay, all right.
For these guys and probably on my end too, I don't know. It can't get any more difficult on my end as far as tracking it, so anything would be a bonus. But for these guys, if they can track it, because there's times when they miss a payment and I see it, and I don't know why it doesn't come to both of us, but we're back and forth a lot on, it's all like an email-based system, so I think, yeah, this will be an improvement regardless.
Dal, did you use this previously?
Yes.
Okay, in Boxlight, and your thoughts on it?
I thought it was great. We used BSNA in Fox Lake. It was a nice system, but very cumbersome, had a lot of features that we didn't need. On the director side, the reporting system was horrible. Had a lot of glitches, so just trying to create a report, we'd have to contact BSNA to do a report for us, which cost money just because the system was so hard to understand. Whereas this system is dummy-proof, so I'll be able to create any types of reports that you guys desire. And then just tracking everything too. How long did this permit take? How long did plan review take? So on and so forth. So it's and currently goes through the folder for each month, types it all up for the council packets, whereas now we'll just be able to hit a button and print the report for you.
And we currently use BSNA software. That probably sounds familiar, but we don't use the building module. It's quite pricey and we never did purchase it. So this kind of takes the place of, you did look at that originally to add to our module, but since this integrates and it's easier to use, we just went that option instead.
Well, sounds too good to be true.
Let's see how it works.
Is there we're coming up on budget time and so on. Is there an ask in here somewhere that we're gonna see
No, the only ask that would be required if we wanted would be the data transfer, to take all of our addresses and whatever information in BSNA, put it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then throw that in here. When I was in Fox Lake, it was around $17,000, but that included all of our permits and everything, because we had the BSNA software. It'd be cheaper here, but I didn't want there to be an ask at all, so it's just going to take effort on our part to add addresses as we go.
We have 3 users.
It's up to 3 users, yeah.
Where were you planning on putting the 3 users?
It would just be mine, Ann and I for now, and then if Administrator Leone wants access, or down the road if we add a third person to the department, or
I don't want
Deb, or she loves software. So the 3 of us at this time.
Thanks.
I suspect there's an ask next fiscal year, Alderman.
So basically, the amount of people you can have is up to 3 people, right?
Using it, yes.
For free? And then
Correct.
how much does it cost to add additional people?
That's a good question. I'm not sure of that.
$100,000.
Doesn't say in here. I can find out though. Yeah, I can find out before the full council meeting.
Yeah, motion to approve.
Second?
Anybody have any other questions or anything to discuss on it? No? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No? Looks like a unanimous pass. Very good. All right, we'll move on to our discussion regarding the creation of a TIF district for 205 West Front Street.
Right, so we have a great team here tonight to talk about this project. Most recently, the mayor, myself, met with their team at the property to get a look at what their vision was for the property. It's a pretty substantial project, turning the old police station and city hall into 22 or 24 nice apartment units. And originally they had talked about doing a brewery on the first floor. They couldn't make the numbers work. They're having difficulty making the numbers work now with the 22 apartments. It's upwards of $3 million, if I remember correctly. And so we started talking about options. Since the property was formerly a city hall and police station, it was not included in the enterprise zone. So the only other option we have is to do a TIF district. The current tax bill on the property, I believe, is around $900. So after doing the $3 million revitalization of that property, he's going to have a substantial real estate tax bill. So depending on what the city agrees to pay towards the overall project, whether it's 20% of total project cost or 25%, what have you, this won't, I don't see this being a 23-year TIF. This could be a shortened TIF that we would reimburse the owner out of the taxes that he pays to the city until they're made whole or the term ends. And then the city, I would expect the TIF to be on this property but go to the opposite curbs on that intersection, so that if the city wanted to hold on to the TIF for a little bit longer to improve that intersection, like what we've done with the downtown area, that could be an option there. We kind of looked at expanding the TIF, but really didn't see a need for it going in any direction, so it would just be for this property. And then we have representatives here for that property to discuss further. Louise, Larry, if you guys want to come up to the microphone, introduce yourselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Luis. I'm the current owner of the property. This is Larry. We've been working with him from the beginning. Like he stated, we looked at the brewery project. Given that it's in the ground and the numbers and the size of the building, that idea just wouldn't make sense. Larry can talk a little bit more about what we ran into and what we are currently trying to make happen right now.
Hi, I'm Larry Fahrenkopf with Architects 127. Been out in this area for about 30 years. Haven't been blessed to have too many projects in Hartford, so I kind of looked at that as a real blessing. What is that? We're almost 2 years, I think, since we first met. I was sort of put in charge of what can we actually put in here, because I think the team prior was having a hard time making the project work as far as a lot of things, not just necessarily money, but just having that interest on a project. And I've had the luxury of looking at a lot of different properties, and as I call this one, it's a more of an adaptive reuse of an older building, which is kind of near and dear to more preservationist type architects. I do enjoy that, because I've been doing it for a while. And so I look at those as those golden opportunities. In the past several years, some of the work has changed more from some of the commercial entities to more of serving some of these residential type desires that towns really are looking for, and that's how they're growing. And those particular areas then support the commercial areas, which oftentimes are hurting for people. We looked at this particular project. It's I think most of the group in this room knows the building probably pretty well, might even know it better than I do. It's an interesting little building. As such, I looked at it from a couple commercial type ventures, being an event space, possibly even banquet, other types of small business that could actually go in those particular floors that are in there. It's currently a two-level building. The ground level is partial sub-level below grade, but it has a great current upper floor. The building has obviously a tall nature to it, and I looked at that as an opportunity potentially for a stacking aspect when it comes to a residential type user, and that's even with having loft type units or whatever. So those always have a little bit more of an attractive kind of appeal to them. Looked at those, looked at some of the market and such, and we kind of came up with a couple ideas as far as how we might be able to approach that in a multi-family type situation. The site has a terrific parking lot just to the west of it. It also has obviously some other key strategic assets of what's surrounding there with a train station and commuter lot. And it has that terrific asset across the street of that development of Starline. I might be saying that wrong. I've enjoyed that visit the few times I've had that opportunity. So I look for, what do some of these businesses and what does the town require? And I try not to rush to that solution, but it seemed like we just kept coming back to the residential. We felt really helping the town. We put together a few scenarios. I think current scenario has approximately 16 units on what we call the current floor that we may have been on, and creating a new floor just above that. And also looked at what are the advantages to potentially locating something even on the ground level. And we looked at mixed use. We've looked at a few things. Currently, we're looking at some other types of residential options. I mean, sometimes Airbnb, smaller studio type apartments, just things to address what we're hearing as I've had my opportunity to talk to different business people around the area. I think most recently, I think our most excited aspect has been this 16 to 22, 24 units that we currently are proposing. We put together a small document. I didn't know if that was going to be projected up there or if you had been given that plan. It's a pretty simplistic concept, but it shows market-sized units that I think might work real well together. I think we have 5 one-bedrooms and 3 two-bedrooms on a level. That particular mix starts to come when you do a little bit more market research as far as what the needs are, but that was a guesstimate utilizing the square footage of that particular space as it sits. Not really looking to change the character of that building, part of what I always call adaptive reuse is to still embrace what's there and complement it, bring it back to some previous life that it currently had. So I'm kind of hoping that our final adaptation that we'll all get to see at some point still mimics and really embraces the building that's there. I think my client loved that idea, and I think that part is the exciting part. The other part that, as an architect, does it fit the neighborhood? I think this type of use is very competitive or compatible to what the needs of the neighborhood are, and that's where I look for that feedback because I'm not here every day. And so I enjoy when we have these meetings and we're walking around town and such and listening to what people feel. While going through this process, obviously the dollar is always in the returns that my client is hopefully going to find out of a project like this come to fruition. And so we've put together some ideas as far as a pro forma to see what type of returns it's going to net, my client at least, as far as that goes. And is it commensurate, or as far as is it equal to the risk? Because as an architect and as anyone breathing in this room, we've known things have gotten quite a bit more expensive in the last couple of years to actually make projects even work. I've drawn a couple of my best projects that I've ever drawn, and they're not getting built right now just because of that dynamic as far as, yeah, it can be a great idea, but they're not necessarily working. So we met a couple times, at least I met a couple times with the city and such. And I think there was I left always with more encouragement that maybe this is something that we could do as long as we try something in tandem and not try to, create something that maybe shouldn't be. And I don't think we found a lot of objection. I think we found, we had discussion about other possible uses, which is a fun aspect of a project development. But it keeps coming back. It seems like the type of residential project that I think currently is that we're seeing in concept here. You can ask us about financial aspects of it, which I'm hoping we do, and I will not embarrass myself by trying to pretend that I have that part down. We have somebody else here that has prepared somewhat of a pro forma at this point, as preliminary as it is. I think it's still a good gauge of where this project could be at this snapshot of where we're at. When we build it, it could be another time frame, and I think that's what I always try to make people aware of. When we design something as such, it's a snapshot of where we are right at that point. We try to project that out, but the financial aspects of projects have really gotten a wee bit scary. I know that from the projects that I'm currently drawing are a little less than they were 5 years ago. Fewer, at least as far as quantity. I hope that comes back. And so we certainly have the group here. I also have with me Pete Peru. He's a gentleman I've worked with in the construction side for many years. We battle out a lot of things, and I think it's healthy for a project to have that. And so we might not agree on the same answers if you ask us that, but I think that's what the spirit of a project in its developing phase. I think that's important. So we're just looking for some, at least I am, some potential encouragement that maybe what we're seeing is something that the city would appreciate having.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
This has to do, I can't read a lot of this. Donna, do you have a copy of this in PDF that you can send out, that you can blow up and see I just put my phone on 5 times and I still can't read it. My question is, on the elevation here, that, okay, there's the basement was the old police station, and that's, you got just as optional, so you don't know what you're going to do with that. Then does the new second floor, does that require raising the roof some?
It would be just slightly, but we're trying to stay within the confines of what you see there currently. I don't like to disrespect older architecture, even architecture that oftentimes people look at and go, really? If there was any additional projection above there, even though I've tried to do a concept as far as so one could see that it fits within the envelope that's there. If it were to project any further up, it would be a sensitive way. It wouldn't be trying to mimic brick and such. It might be a siding type material, but something respective of the building. But I really feel that the large bow truss structure that's up there, we can either reuse, which is always attractive. I mean, if you tell an architect that there's
Maybe-
a bow truss there, you want to reuse it no matter what.
Actually jack it up some and then build.
It sounds extremely idealistic for the architect in me, but then I have this gentleman over here that always gets in my way and goes, that really screws up the whole budget of the project. So the ideal would be to raise it, yes.
Okay.
Has there been any discussion on again, this is really, really early in the idea phase here. What would be like your target rent range on these apartments, just so that we kind of have an idea? Because I mean, if you're going to come back and say $4,000 a month, then obviously we're well outside of what Harvard is. So what's kind of our concept here?
They're 4,000. I want to be a partner.
We're looking at 15.
Around, okay,
That's
right.
for the 2 bedrooms.
Okay, just market
I was
range.
set
I don't
by
expect to
real
be
estate
exact.
agents what the typical rent rolls are, and that's your pretty much top. We're not looking, to go that too high. It wouldn't even happen.
Okay.
1 bedroom studios are like 900 to 1,000, and then your top, your 2 bedrooms are like 15 max.
I mean, I agree.
It goes up to make, right now, the building's not making much money at all.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying after we even develop it, the rents are low, where that's why we're looking for the TIF money and that to help.
I mean, I agree. I think residential is definitely something that we need in Harvard, because I do see people looking for places to rent on a regular basis and they can't find anything because everything's taken. And, we've been encouraging developers to build more, and, we've got new development coming in. So I definitely see that. And the demand for downtown, like apartments above restaurants and things and businesses,
Use,
that
right.
that mixed use, that type of demand has come back a lot in the last probably 10 to 15 years. You go down to downtown Geneva, or downtown St. Charles, and they've built tons of that, and those are very luxury apartments that are very high demand because of where they're located, right by train stations and whatnot. So I do see a lot more demand for this than maybe say a restaurant or something like that. So I like the direction you're going.
That's what the area is gonna subside, we'll make more rent for them. Right now, they're not making much money at all, because low rents are not the best thing, towns is not sustainable on high rents.
Well, and we also
That's what
don't.
we're hoping for you guys to bring, with this, when you bring more industry in, it'll bring more stuff, it'll bring up the rents for them.
Yeah, and we also want to make sure that we're bringing in competitive residential, not necessarily just the lowest rent we can possibly get, because then it doesn't necessarily help our economic structure, because then, you're not growing at that point.
We're not gonna be
Yeah.
going where you say Corian and all that. No, it's gonna be a little bit nicer inside, where they're gonna hold their values. And that's what they're looking at building.
But I want this group to support that use, the location, and how it will really help that side of town and such. It's such a unique, older building, and if we do respect it, I think that's a real asset. I mean, I do. Again, architectural, we're a little bit more on the preservation side than maybe the average architect maybe, but I look at that as being a really neat asset. And you can't always move these buildings. They are where they're located, and it's soul searching where that is. And I don't think the team here, even before I was involved, rushed to decision. I think they were bold enough to suggest some things, and they were humble enough when maybe they didn't necessarily net what they were going to do, and that maybe there's other locations that that particular entity might work. It takes a lot. Most people are always rushed to judgment on something, and they just want to do it. They're just so bullheaded, and so I'm kind of proud of them as much as they haven't developed a whole lot of things in life. I think that's neat. But if someone here goes, this is probably the worst application of a residential use where we need to have a handball court, or I'm just using it as a funny example. I think we needed something that supports the downtown strip. I think that would be outstanding. But this apparent TIF is so instrumental to making a project like this work. And to be honest, more and more of my developers who come to me are utilizing that particular tool.
Did you say the roof is a bow truss?
Yes.
Okay. When we when we took over the bowling alley in town, we have a bow truss roof. And I had multiple firemen come in and say that in the event of a fire, they'll know pretty quickly whether or not they're going to be able to do anything or at all. The bow truss roofs, my understanding, are dangerous.
Yeah,
That's why they don't do them
era.
anymore.
They come from a different era.
Yeah.
Granted, they also didn't have fire sprinkler systems and that makes a bit
Absolutely.
of a difference. And we kind of know that part.
Yeah.
That's added a significant safety factor that we didn't have way back when we were building these great bowling alleys.
No, it's we took the ceiling out and it was exposed, when we were renovating. It's beautiful. I mean, the pieces of wood were 15 inches wide. I mean, just amazing. It looks like a bridge, really. It's amazing. But yeah, it's
Analogy, yeah. It is like a bridge. And it's hard to throw away some of that history. I have a hard time with that. I think if you just listen to the way I express myself, that those are things that I do try to appreciate and try to share that with others. I think it's a way. Now, obviously, costs do enter into things, and obviously the codes do make a difference, and we do listen. There's a little difference being on more of the end side of your career versus the early side of your career. You see things a little differently, and you sort of appreciate those things. And if you're not just so full of that, it's the only way something can be done, you really gather and gain stuff. So I kind of like that part. And no, we're not always right.
right. Wasn't the roof, Mike, of that building redone recently, like in the last 10 years? The roof, not the
No, I understand.
support.
I don't, not during my tenure, so.
Okay, yeah.
no.
Maybe
I
it was
don't know
maybe it
prior
was
to
just
my-
before, because I remember it being in council.
It was recently redone.
It was? Okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful building, and I would love to see something successful go in there. And I understand that sprinkler, I just was raising what I had been told from the fire department about both truss roofs, so.
I think everyone on the city council expressed that sentiment.
Yeah.
That, when we voted to accept the bid for, as a brew pub, we saw that, having that building be, and have another life was something we wanted to do. So that's not an issue. The TIF might be an issue, but I'm not sure, but wanting to preserve that building is something everybody on city council wants to do. At least they expressed that, I think. One of the problems that building had, though, and it will affect like how much it costs to bring it back to life, is that the basement, where the police were, flooded a lot. Have you, as an architect, looked into that and what the cost may be to prevent that?
I think the earlier part of that was that we didn't initially count on that particular space as being instrumental to making the viability of the project. We feel that there's always a solution. It's just a matter of how much money are you willing to put to it. And that's usually a result of when you look at the entire project and the exposure and such, can it work? Do I look to work with my construction group on those types of things? Absolutely. I'm usually more in charge of finding the viability of a project to see, what type of life you can get back in this. I do feel like we can solve those types of issues. Sometimes, right now, that's not a very ADA friendly building, as we all know. It looks more like a skater park type of building where you have all the ramps and such and such. But we'll come up with something on that.
Okay.
Assuming you were to build 22, 24 units, is there enough parking to support that number of units?
Yeah, I mean, I did my research a little while ago, but generally speaking, most of the units require 2 spaces per unit, and if you just do the math, and if there's 46 to 48 spots out there currently, and there might be up to 24 times 2 is 48.
Yeah, I wasn't sure
So
how many parking
It
spaces.
seemed like it was a much better ratio versus other uses. And it's not the only barometer of why we choose a certain use, but it is a barometer. And it's a great barometer when it comes to leasing something, instead of potentially having some parking here, and then if you have a sticker, there could be 3 spots here. That's oftentimes those reasons why people look for a lot of benefits early on, meaning help from particular communities to sort of subscribe on, and sometimes they're just not always the best solutions. And parking's one of those that oftentimes not looked at, but that's a real asset of this particular site and building.
Would ADA requirements require an elevator in this?
It would not.
It would not? Okay, I thought it would.
Well,
I mean, there's certain aspects of ADA, yeah, correct.
yeah.
But when so often in meetings like this, when people think ADA elevator, no, an elevator is not required based on just, the simplistic concept that you're looking at. More times than not, we're looking at the actual stairway and egress out of something like this. And when you introduce 2 stairs at opposite ends, it usually takes care of those particulars. I'm asked often to, it sounds horrible, work your way around the code, and which oftentimes means put 4 units per floor, up to 3 floors, and you can get away with 1 stair. But what you don't get away with is your head on your pillow at night. When there's 2 means of egress out of a place and it's fully fire sprinklered, it makes me feel a lot easier on that type of stuff.
Having ADA accessible units on the first floor will satisfy.
Correct.
I haven't done any research on the building, if there's any historic aspect. Was it ever a plaque building? It doesn't seem like it might be. I don't think it dates back far enough that someone commemorated it as something significant.
The building was originally a moose lodge.
Well,
So,
we've done an elk, a moose,
Yeah.
a few animals we've done.
I do have a question. Is there not a possibility to consider expanding the enterprise zone for this project versus creating a TIF? But there's a process to create, to add it to the enterprise zone, but would that satisfy the need to make the project go forward versus doing a TIF?
Good. My understanding, when we talked to Charlie about this,
Right, it's easier to change the conditions within the existing than it is to add more.
certainly would.
I thought we did some early, very preliminary discussions on those, and I thought the 2 items were, it had a very long time frame to come to fruition. I think we were
Yeah, it's-
estimating it could be a couple of years.
As far as the enterprise zone,
Yeah.
it could take anywhere from, I think it's like 8 months to 16 months, somewhere in that time frame. Once we
Most
start.
of it's dependent upon the state to get through
Right.
the state
Right,
process.
that was it.
It's more of a financial thing where you look at your enterprise zone is not gonna cover enough financially to cover up the gap what you're looking at.
Which a
I've
TIF
done it in
obviously
Woodstock,
does.
It was just free taxes, but that's not enough for the project to go forward, just giving us free taxes. And you're not getting whatever through the state, we have to file and all that, but it's a little harder. And there's another way to do it. I don't know if you guys went through.
And state your name too.
Yeah, name and address for the.
My name's Peter Baroud with general contractor with DeBrow Construction. If you're looking at a TIF, and I don't know how you guys do your TIF, but there's different ways of TIFing. If you get a loan from a bank, you guys back it, we get the loan, you guys repay it through tax returns and all that stuff over a certain amount of years. Because we need more of a cash than a rebate, and where you say, where I'm gonna get tax credits, it's not gonna do us much good where you're running over years of tax credits.
Yeah, I think from the city's perspective, there are two ways to do the TIF where you could do that and you bond it out and then draw against the bond. But I think our preference is to try and do a pay-as-you-go because as the taxes are generated, then that tax is available to be utilized for the infrastructure payments. And it's a safer way to do a TIF as pay-as-you-go for the city because it reduces liabilities. But it makes it more difficult for the project itself because pay-as-you-go means that until that taxes are collected and put into that escrow, they're not available to pay back the infrastructure. So that would be up to city council to determine, which direction they would want to go on that. This is a much smaller project than some of the other TIFs that we have done. But the process to do a TIF is typically 6 to 8 months at a minimum because you have lots of hearings and things that are required for it. But my understanding is the property meets the criteria to be eligible for a TIF. Question is whether city council will require a feasibility study to be done, and that would fall on the applicant to pay for that. So, and I'm certain that city council will want to see some kind of feasibility study that provides them the assurance that it makes feasible sense to do so.
By law, we will have to do that study. It is reimbursable once the TIF is created and proceeds start coming in. So next step would, if you guys want to move forward with the conversation, to keep it going, is to sit down with Luis and his team to go over the pro forma, get a total ask, what that ask is, and figure out what the estimated real estate taxes would be. We would take a little bit for administrative fees. Some would come off the top for the school district if there's an impact on the live load of the school that's required by state law. So based on all those factors, we would determine what that term would be, if it's going to be a 5-year thing, a 10-year. And like I said previously, is it going to be 20% of the total project costs, or 25%, what have you? So a lot of that stuff still needs to be worked out, which we plan on doing before we bring this back up before council, so that you get a full picture of how long this is going to be, total cost, expenditures, so on and so forth. All of our costs related to this, attorney fees, the plan, the studies, are all reimbursable though.
How long would the project take?
Creative process is going to take us just as long as the construction planning.
Construction will be probably a year, maybe a little bit more.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have any problem with continuing the discussion and looking further into this. I mean, the building's doing nothing right now, and this is helping them do something with the building as opposed to it just sitting empty. I mean, in the nature of full disclosure, I mean, the interested parties originally that were looking into this property was this family and Orrin was looking to do maybe like a boutique hotel or something along those lines to tie it into Starline. So, I mean, I think residential is pretty close to that, and it's, getting people downtown. And we've been revitalizing downtown. We've been encouraging businesses to redo their facades and, build up the businesses downtown. So I think that, I'll be honest, I like this idea better than a brew pub because it doesn't necessarily just draw people in. It's going to keep people in the downtown. So I think moving the discussion forward I don't see a downside to trying to at least get more information so we can see what we're, see if it makes sense. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't, but, you know, I don't want to say no.
Donovan, how long do you think it would take to do an analysis?
Internally, just sitting down with them, just a couple of weeks, then I would anticipate, as we go through it all, to put it before council as a total package with potentially an inducement resolution so that they can begin tracking costs. There's no guarantee that the TIF will be created, but at least that resolution is in place. They know that we're serious, we know that they're serious, and then I've not gone through the TIF process here, so I don't know who the consultant is or if we're going to use a different consultant than you've used previously for the study and stuff like that, that they would bear the cost of. But
We typically use Ernst Young.
So we're probably looking at like what if we give the green light, we're probably looking at reviewing this like the November city council meeting.
yeah, I would say that's safe.
If not, we remember that December is an early council meeting.
Okay, so yeah,
December 12th, so it'd be either late November or early December.
but we could for sure get it done by the end of the year.
I'll second it.
Was there a motion?
I thought you
Oh,
had motioned
no,
it
no,
because
I-
you were saying.
No,
I
you
was
go ahead and
just
make
saying
that motion.
You
Well,
make the
then,
motion.
I'll motion it with the whole feasibility study to be brought up to city council. I like the idea of having more apartments there for people. I keep hearing from other people that are moving out that they don't have enough places here in Harvard to find homes, and that, it's just frustrating, especially the younger generation, because they want to stay here, they want to raise their families here, but anything that is available is way too pricey and out of their price ranges. And so, I think with it being close to the train, that's great, and you guys can, over time, charge more money because of the fact that it's so close to everything there, and with more people coming in, it would bring life back to our downtown.
I second that.
Okay, any other questions? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like it passes, all right,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Follow up tomorrow.
Okay, new business.
Just one thing I wanted to bring up, and it's related to the TIF, or the Joint TIF Review Board. We're required, once a TIF is created, to have an annual meeting. During some discussions earlier this year, we realized that as a city, quite 10-plus years ago, they stopped doing the annual meeting, mainly because there was nobody showing up from the other taxing entities. I lost a bet on whether or not we're supposed to, and it cost me a lunch to certain individuals, that we are supposed to have an annual, and we do have one scheduled for the 30th. Packets are supposed to be going out, I believe, this weekend. The reason I
30th.
bring this up is because what's that?
30th of October?
30th of
Okay.
October. The reason I bring this up is because I just wanted to mention it. Now it was going to be kind of a surprise, or an addition to my admin report, that one of the things during that bet is that I had a chance to talk with the comptroller and essentially get early forgiveness on that, because I explained that what had happened. So the city is not in trouble for it, but as long as we proceed and keep our annual meetings like we're supposed to, which again, I assured her that we are going to be having one this year. We were waiting for the audit to be fully completed before we could even schedule one, which that is now done. Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up now, since this was discussed, and it will be included in my admin report, so that the other council members will also know what happened. It is something that happened. We have corrected the situation to make sure that we are compliant with that, and as we find other things that we're not compliant, if we're not compliant, we will be compliant.
Lou, what are our active TIFs right now? Arrowhead? Correct?
We have the industrial, we still have the downtown, but that ends in January. And then we have one more, no?
We have a couple of different bonds out on phases.
Okay.
But that's the only other TIF district we have.
Like a year or so ago, wasn't there mention that Arrowhead, that they wanted to extend their TIF? Mike, do you remember that?
They were seeking to do so. They haven't pursued that.
Okay.
There is also possibility of creating a second TIF in the industrial park for those areas that are not currently covered on the current TIF.
Okay, when does that TIF end?
It ends in 4 years.
4 years, okay. And there's no word from United Glove on their request?
No, well, they have not. We've already done the inducement.
Correct.
But nothing has proceeded.
Okay, thank you.
Do we want to try to schedule the next meeting now, or do we want to wait till city council to schedule the next meeting? I mean, because we already know kind of somewhat our agenda's going to be.
And we're going to add on there discussion regarding updated building codes. We're on the 2012 cycle. ICC's up to the 2024. So we'll have that on there with some potential amendments, and then possible amendments to our driveway ordinance to make it so they don't come before you guys for a variance each time. Just to,
Are we really going to do that finally?
I think that was brought up during my interview.
I like
It
having
was.
I like
It
having
was.
a driveway variance almost every meeting. Come on, it's tradition at this point.
You do.
I know. It's going to take away a good chunk of our agenda.
Pretty simple change, I think. We're allowed to approve up to 6 feet wide for staff right now. We might make that 9 or 10 feet, and then we should be good. Following the other requirements for lot coverage and things like that, so, but we're going to take a closer look at it and present it to you.
Chairman, I'm going to respectfully ask that we wait until the council meeting. So we have, I've not had a chance to consult my schedule.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Again, this one I want to make sure I'm at.
Okay, well, that was what I was going to ask, is my thought was originally to kind of like schedule it further out so people can make arrangements, but yes, I agree. Our goal is to try to have, I'd like to have you need to be there, but I'd like to make sure that we get the feasibility for the fiber optic on there for sure. But we also want to make sure that the school board can be there, and if we can try to get the impact fees on discussion. If the impact fees don't make it, I'm not going to lose sleep over it, only because it's just business as usual. Nothing's been changed. Nothing's, we're just looking to do the discussion and include all parties as much as possible.
Yeah, and 2 notes on that. In anticipation that we were actually going to be talking about impact fees, I did send out an email to all the taxing entities.
Yep.
To make sure that they're aware, or not taxing entities, the impact fees, entities that would be impacted. And then when it became known that I couldn't attend and I was wanting to remove it, I also sent a follow-up email informing them that due to a conflict, it was being pulled from the agenda. So that being said, I've got an email already prepped to reach out to everybody again once a date is determined. And then on the feasibility, I'm not sure if this was brought up or not, but since the last time we talked about feasibility studies, there was a grant opportunity to cover the cost of the feasibility study for municipal internet, and I've already submitted. We're just waiting to hear back on that one.
Oh, that's really good news. Charlie, your delay worked out in your favor. You wanted to discuss the feasibilities, you wanted to look more into it because of the costs and the companies that you wanted to find out more about it.
Yeah, but I thought we were
But now there's a grant available.
I thought we were going to develop an RFQ. That's what the action item was.
Yeah, but now now there's potentially a grant to cover the cost of the feasibility instead of us upfronting
My problem
money.
with the feasibility study that was chosen was that it was, I don't think it would have provided us any information. Whether that costs money or it's free is still a problem.
When I applied for the grant, I did not use the feasibility you're speaking of as a basis. It was actually the higher one, which was the company that you had suggested, since I was able to actually get their feasibility or their quote back sooner.
Do you have a quote from them?
I do have a quote from them.
Well, you didn't even write so you just wrote the quote without,
No, I reached out to him to get an estimate of what it would cost to do a full-blown feasibility study.
That way he has a number so that he can
but
apply
just,
for the
just,
grant.
Right.
just to review one more time, the
No,
action item.
and the chairman's correct. It was so that I could at least apply for the grant.
Oh,
Yeah, it's just getting a ballpark figure so you can
Right.
say, this is the grant, this is what we believe it will cost, so that we can apply it, so we can at least get our name in the bucket for the grant. But that would, when I directed Lou to get that in front of this committee, that was the whole point, was see what other companies there
So the
are
grant-
out there to do the feasibility study, so we could get we could get an impartial company potentially to do it.
who's providing the grant?
It's through the BEADS program, the state.
And the state was interested in a dollar amount, but not the company?
Yes.
Okay.
It's good information, that works out in our favor, so fingers crossed, hopefully that comes back with some positive information. Because I was talking, Jay had mentioned something to me, when we get the impact, when we get the letters, the emails back with interest in the impact fees discussion, if we're missing a couple people, that's okay. If we've got, I want to make sure that we don't keep pushing it off to try to, for the sake of pushing it off, if that makes sense.
And again, it was only requested
Yeah.
because I couldn't be here.
No, that's fine.
okay. No,
That's fine.
the
just
point
mean,
is
like-
just give a date.
Yeah.
This is the date.
Yeah.
And
'Cause
we'll
if
have a
we've-
meeting, and you're invited. If you can't make it,
If we've got most of the entities, if we've got entities that want to come in and discuss, then that's fantastic. But I don't want to necessarily hold out for one of them because they're not getting back to us, is what I'm getting at. So, if they want to be there, they want to be there.
Not a problem.
motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
The feasibility study